Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
Aaron Rodgers can't be the number one player in the league. He slipped last year. He did. I can't blame him. He's probably distracted by his super hot girlfriend. Like, I understand. He's got other things.
And Brandon Schultz.
We need to be more encouraging of Pete Prisco, Adam. We need to help him along. Good job. You had Russell in the top 50. We've told you many times to do better, and now you are. We're proud of you, Pete.
Go Hawks!
On a quest to own the West, yippee-ki-yay, we make the ground shake. On game day, 12 man, yeah, he's feeling it is vital. The Seahawks coming to take division titles.
This is the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz, member of the military Seahawkers. Joining me, my good buddy and inaugural member of the Montana Seahawkers, Adam Emmert.
Brandon, it is here. Behold, the start of the NFL season is upon us. Are you excited? Are you fired up? I don't know if you can tell. I'm fired up today.
You are fired up. I'm fired up. One of the things I'm really fired up about, because thank goodness the preseason is over. Not just because of preseason football, but we don't have to hear the word vanilla anymore until this time next year. How many times do you hear the word vanilla throughout the preseason?
Yeah, exactly. The only time I want to hear vanilla going forward is when it's in conjunction with milkshake, because I love vanilla milkshakes. So that's exactly the only time I want to hear it. But on a scale of 1 to 10, Brandon, as far as excitement, I'm at 5,000 today. I'm not even going to lie. I'm so fired up. We're going to talk a little bit about the final 53-man roster. Also going to talk about the upcoming Dolphins game, a little bit about the last preseason game. I know we had a few other topics too.
We do. And Sam Marcoux from the Perfectville podcast, it's a Miami Dolphins podcast. He's performing at the Comedy Underground in Seattle this week. He's going to come on the show, and he's a big Dolphins fan, so he's going to help us break down the matchup with the Dolphins. And you say you're 5,000 excited. I am 500,000 excited because, Adam, this show is going to push us over 500,000 downloads, and that really excites me.
Is that a true fact?
That's a true fact.
Wow. Because I was going to start out this podcast a little bit about being excited, and the other about how pleased I am about where the show is going. And that's one of the parts of it, right? Is the fact that so many people actually tune in and listen. And why I'm so pleased to start this show and with everybody is that we started this out and it was a little bit of our show, right? I mean, we were doing it for other 12s.
Yeah.
But it was our kind of deal. But with all the feedback and all of you coming in with emails and phone calls and tweets and Facebook messages and all of it, you give us so much material every week. You've turned this now into your show. And that's what we've always wanted. We wanted it to be your guys' show. And here it is, man. We're loaded with emails and voicemails and all sorts of good stuff this week. And we'll get to all that too on the second half of the show. But I just want to say thanks to all you guys for interacting as much as you do. And it's really great. And for those of you who don't interact with the show, do it, because you're going to feel good about it. Then I feel good about it. And it's like a warm fuzzy for everybody. Just start interacting. You're going to feel better about your deal.
Yes. And we have plenty of emails coming up, lots of feedback to get to. But let's get into our topics. And on the bad news side, maybe we should just get the bad news out of the way right away, because there was black smoke coming from the BMAC on cutdown day. And let's talk about the 53-man roster. One guy that wasn't on it, Troy Pope.
Yeah, not on the 53. That surprised me, especially when you saw the way that he performed in this final preseason game, even on special teams, right? Returning a kick and setting up a score. He was dynamic yet again, and somehow does not make the 53 yet. Plotting Alex Collins does. This feels a lot like a guy like Spencer Ware, where he ended up now with the Kansas City Chiefs and plays a prominent role on their team, and he's a good player. And a guy that couldn't quite make it with the Seahawks, and yet is a good, talented guy. And he was the guy that I invested in. My hope was in Pope, and now Pope's a Jet, and that stinks.
Now he's a Jet, and best of luck to him. They had a lot of issues at depth at running back for the New York Jets, so we will see him in Week 4. Best of luck to Troy Pope. I'm not going to be too down about it, because it is It's the start of football season, and we have 53 guys of our own guys that made the roster, and it just speaks to the depth of this team that they have that opportunity that we're actually down about the fourth running back, who actually that came down to. Right. If that's where we're nitpicking, then we're in pretty good shape, because the Dolphins, they're starting a rookie at quarterback, and they're not all that excited about him. Starting some guys at linebacker, they're not all excited about. So we're down because of a fourth string running back, but no, we're not. We're gonna get we're excited about our team.
We are, and there's a lot of reasons to be excited. And Brandon, I'm going to just give you some props here right before we break down the rest of the 53, and that is you out-predicted the crap out of me when it comes to the 53-man roster. You made me look stupid. Good job by you. I'm just hats off, but you got a lot of this right.
I did, yeah. Now we missed on the fullback, but I got McAvoy on there for Tanner McAvoy, wide receiver. He was your fifth wide receiver. George Fant, they keep him at left tackle. Jari Evans, the veteran guard, on his way out, and you could kind of tell with some of his performance against the Raiders that he would be on his way out.
Yeah, that was kind of the final nail in the coffin for him, because up to that point, I think I had said on the previous podcast, like, yeah, I think Evans makes it as a veteran presence and like all that, but not so much for his ability. Well, I mean, his ability wasn't even serviceable when you look at him against some of the Raiders' backup defensive linemen, who apparently have a lot of depth on defensive line. Yeah. Let's be real about that. But still, Jari Evans, not much left in the tank, and which happens to great players, and he was a great player.
Yeah,
and you can't take any of that away from him. And having him here, even just for the preseason to talk to all these young linemen, was probably a great experience for them too. So, no, Jari Evans did not make it. Soakley, gone.
Yeah.
See you later. The Soakley experiment, done. And maybe they decided to just get rid of the Soakley experiment for the Fant experiment. I think that's probably the trade-off that was made there, right?
Yeah, it feels like it, because Soakley doesn't even make the practice squad, and from his agent, sounds like he's going to try and flip back over and play defensive line. So he might not have been all that happy with experimenting along the offensive line either.
Wow, I hadn't heard that. That's interesting. Yeah. So that might be the better move for him. I guess if 3 years in the league and it hasn't clicked and you haven't been able to make it on a bad offensive line, at that position, maybe it is time to go back to your natural position.
So quarterbacks round out Russell Wilson, Trayvon Boykin as your backup, and a lot of people concerned with, I think people were willing to accept Trayvon Boykin as the Seahawks backup, and then the Raiders game came along, and not a whole lot of people weren't so excited after seeing his performance. We'll just put it that way.
Well, here's the thing. He's an undrafted rookie, and you can expect a guy who's a rookie to have some up and down performances.
Yeah.
I think overall what we saw from Boykin throughout the preseason were up performances for the most part, and the Raiders game was a bit of a dumpster fire. But look, they can't all be winners, man, and he's going to learn so much more from those struggles than from the successes. And I think it was a good thing for him overall. And I think the fact that the Seahawks haven't rushed out to grab somebody else right here before the start of the season tells you one of two things. One, either they're very confident in Boykin, or two, they're very confident in the fact that Russell Wilson never gets hurt. I just knocked on the wood. Not the wood, but wood, the table. Yes.
Yes. Some wood.
Yes, exactly. But quarterback, we're set. You saw the running backs cut down. So what? That left us with Rawls, Michael, Procise, and Collins, correct?
Yep, those are your four running backs. And then Tani Tupou is your fullback now, former University of Washington defensive lineman. Kind of fills that same role as Tukuafu, being able to play the defensive line and just a big guy that you can put in at fullback.
So this is our new Mr. T, is basically what you're saying.
He could be Mr. T. I don't know if you have in Simpsons, you have Snowball and then Snowball 2. Do we just call him T2?
Yes, T2, much like the movies, right? Like the Terminator movies. I like this T2.
I kind of do too, and I think I don't know. I think back to the intro music of Terminator 2, and I think it's
solid.
It's kind of the noise that T2 would make hitting the hole, right? See, that's Tani Tupou bouncing off five dudes.
Hit it again. Hit it again. And that gives me chills just listening to it, because the second Terminator, right, the shape-shifting one, he was the most terrifying Terminator of all the Terminators. I mean, and if this is our upgraded Terminator, would he not be the shape-shifting Terminator, right? Like, he's the next one in the line from Tukuafu to Tupo now.
Well, see, I guess that's assuming that Tukuafu it was the guy with the exoskeleton underneath his skin. Is Tupo a shapeshifter?
He might as well be. I don't know. I just know he's got to be more terrifying than Tukuafu. And if you're talking in the Terminator reference, the most terrifying Terminator was absolutely the shape-shifting Terminator.
Yeah, T-1000.
Like, his arms turn into like swords and catfish, like slice people up. He could turn into anything. He could be your mom. You don't know. He was. I had nightmares. So hopefully, Tupo gives defenses the same kind of nightmares. I'm excited to see what he brings.
I am too. And another local guy. I appreciate us having another University of Washington player on that offense.
You bet. Super cool, man. So that's kind of the backfield. We kind of got that on lockdown. Ended up keeping a number of tight ends.
Right. Jimmy Graham, obviously. Luke Wilson stays with the team. Now Nick Vanette still injured, but makes the team. And then Brandon Williams. So they keep 4 tight ends. A lot of it has to do with injury. Jimmy Graham still... Carroll was hesitant to say that he would be out there week 1. I would definitely be surprised if he made it out there in the first week. But you did hear Carroll saying that they are running him through the week as though he were going to play, just to get him up to full speed. And I still wouldn't expect him to play, though.
No, not at all. And I don't know. Are you wringing your hands over this? I want them to take the exact amount of time it takes for Jimmy Graham to come back all the way. I don't need him to be back week 1. I mean, there's no symbolic reason for that or any super pressing need for that. He's going to be a good player when he comes back, and he's going to be a difference maker. But with that said, I don't need Jimmy Graham to push it to come back. Come back and be Jimmy when you're ready to be Jimmy. It'll be fine.
Yeah, and I like Brandon Williams a lot for his blocking ability, and getting the run established against the Dolphins is going to be really important. I think Brandon Williams is probably your best guy to do that.
You're going to see a lot of Luke Wilson again, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's the guy that we know, and obviously the team is comfortable with him and that sort of thing. So, I mean, he'll make that one big play now and then. He'll make some knucklehead plays now and then. And, I mean, he's Luke Wilson. He spells his name wrong. But.
Well, we gave him a hard time in the past for not being able to catch. And last year, he turned things around. So I'm a lot higher on Wilson going into this season than I was in seasons past.
Yeah, once is a coincidence. That's all I'm going to say.
But we have our 5 guys. We have a starting 5 on the offensive line. We have Bradley Sowell at left tackle. We have Gary Gilliam at right tackle. We have one guy playing his position that he played last year. That's something to really be excited about, because it was going to be all 5 guys switched. On the inside, you got Mark Lewinsky starting on the left guard side, Jermaine Ifedi at right guard, and then Justin Britt at center.
It smells a little like continuity when you have a guy start 2 consecutive seasons at the same position. That's amazing. But this starting offensive line, these guys, they all seem to perform moderately well throughout the preseason, which is way above the dumpster fire that we predicted. Now, we'll see when there's a real game plan and actual first-teamers that wear on them all game long.
Don't you dare say vanilla right now. Don't say vanilla.
I didn't. I stayed right away from it.
I'm glad.
Yeah, but this is going to be a real test for them coming up against the Dolphins. We'll talk about that, but that's probably the right starting 5. Now, listening to Pete Carroll not long ago here, just the last couple of days, I mean, they're asking about right tackle. He's like, yeah, Gary's been doing good there, but it's still an ongoing competition. I don't think this is set. I don't think this is set in stone at all as far as your starting 5.
Jamarcus Webb still could challenge for either of those tackle spots. He can play both, and we saw him do that a little bit in the preseason. My hope is that this group is going to perform and we can feel good about them going into the season and through the season.
Yeah, you bet. And hey, then we got down to our top 5 receivers too. And this is where, Brandon, you were right and I was wrong. I hope that feels good. But the obvious folks, Baldwin, Kearse, Lockett, and Richardson, those are your top 4, with the addition of the ever versatile Tanner McAvoy.
Yeah, and we weren't really sure, right, of going into that Raiders game, what his health status was, and hearing from Pete Carroll that he could have played in that game if he wanted to, so that kept him off of, potentially being cut due to injury. But like you said, very versatile. I was watching some highlights of McAvoy at his time at Wisconsin, and it was kind of hard to keep track of
it's super hard
because they'll show him making a play on defense, and then they'll show him making a play as quarterback, and then they'll show him making a play as running the ball. And this was just a guy that was all over the field in college.
And they put him in different numbers too, so
right.
it was uber confusing. I had a difficult time.
He was 3 and then 5. Yeah,
yeah, isolating Tanner McAvoy, looking at his tape, but I like the last name McAvoy. It makes me think of Tin Cup, and that makes me happy. So,
oh yes, good movie.
Yes, well, that might be a top 5 movie for me. Actually, Tin Cup.
Well, Terminator 2 is one of my top 5s.
It was very good. I don't know if it's a top 5.
It's a top
maybe
5
a top 10.
See, another Kevin Costner movie in my top 5, Field of Dreams.
It's a good movie. It's just too sappy for me.
Okay,
I can't do it. It makes me feel too good.
Well, you take Tin Cup, I'll take.
Right, yeah, you can tell me Tin Cup sappy is all gets out too. That's fine. It is a love story about a lovable, humble driving range pro from West Texas. So yes,
that movie had me until he took the shot with his 3-wood into the green about 15 times.
That's what sealed the deal for me, man. You go for it and you keep going for it until you stop going for it. Because you know what, Brandon? Nobody's going to remember who won the U.S. Open that year, but everybody's going to remember his 12.
That's true.
Rene Russo had it right.
Well, moving over to the defensive side of the ball, on the defensive line, they only keep 8 guys on the ends. You have Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, Frank Clark, and Quentin Jefferson. And then inside, you got Jaron Reed, Ataba Rubin, Tony McDaniel, and Garrison Smith from the 49ers, acquired after the Raiders game.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, he was cut by the 49ers, and I got a note here from Oscar with the Better Rivals podcast, said we will like having him in our rotation. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks to Oscar for the shout out there, letting us know what we're getting here. I guess something that was interesting to me, Quentin Jefferson making the team, because he played lights out in the preseason, and a guy that we didn't mention often or at all, and he needed some shine. I thought he really played well throughout the preseason. This also highlights a notable cut in Jordan Hill,
right?
And a guy that it sounds like to me when I read between the lines, it wasn't about talent, it was about health. And I guess, yeah, and health is a talent. It really is, and so Jordan Hill unable to put it all together, which is sad because, again, I was high on him. But the one thing you can't predict on a player, right, is health for the most part. I mean, there's some guys that are just injured. Like I could have predicted that Tony Romo is going to go down at some point this season. Just maybe not the third play of his third preseason game. Yeah,
and Quentin Jefferson, a versatile player too. We had a text from someone in the 715 said, "Hey guys, question I hope you can answer this week. What's the deal with Quentin Jefferson? I've heard almost nothing about him." Yes, Adam mentioned we have talked almost nothing about him. But if you go back and you watch that Raiders game, you had Quentin Jefferson playing on the outside. You had him getting some good inside pressure. One thing about those defensive tackles, a lot of times they're just there to fill a gap. You don't see them doing a whole lot of things outstanding. So unless you're really focused on a defensive tackle and seeing how much of a push he's getting against that interior offensive lineman, you really don't notice those guys a whole lot. Brandon Mebane was one of those guys, notoriously didn't get noticed, never got picked up, it's recognized for a Pro Bowl, even though, Pro Bowl caliber player now with the Chargers. And those guys tend not to get noticed unless they're getting sacks.
That is absolutely true. And I was a big fan of them keeping Quentin Jefferson. I think that was a solid move by them. I look at that defensive line, and I know you said they only kept, what did you say, 8?
But Cassius Marsh is like an honorary 9th.
But does that concern you depth-wise at all?
No, I think that's a good group. I think you can get a good rotation. 9 guys is who they is the number they've traditionally kept along the defensive line. So I think that seems right to me. Well,
linebackers, this was another place where we were indifferent as far as who they were going to keep and who they're going to cut. But they keep Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, Mike Morgan, Brock Coyle, Gogris, and Kevin Pierre-Louis. So your boy, KPL, he lasted longer. They came out in the same draft, Hill and KPL.
Mm-hmm.
And I was big on Hill. You were big on KPL. He outlasts me. So again, you were right there. This is the Brandon Was Right podcast this week.
Well, one guy that we couldn't have predicted that sounds like he's going to be playing linebacker, they traded to the Raiders for Dewey McDonald. And
who?
He played safety. His name's Dewey McDonald.
No, wait a second. Wasn't he like a character in DuckTales, like back in the day? Wasn't he like one of Scrooge McDuck's nephews, Dewey McDonald?
Yeah, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. He's one of the one of the ducks.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that to his face, though.
I didn't realize he could play the strong side. So
no, he's a weak side guy.
Well,
they want. Coach Carroll said they want to try him out on the weak side. He said that they know what he can do at safety, but what they have already, they have like 5 guys at safety who can play. So McDonald, a guy that looks like they're gonna try him out at the weak side linebacker spot. So if my name's Kevin Pierre-Louis, I'd be watching out, because KPL, man, missing tackles in that Raiders game.
Man, he took some bad angles
all
game long, and he's done that all preseason long too. And I don't know what that is a function of, other than maybe his head's just not in it or something.
Well,
I don't know.
Part of it is that he's really fast, and he can actually be near those plays where maybe some other guys that don't have the speed wouldn't be there. But the tackling ability, once he gets there, is the issue that I think we saw.
It was pretty abysmal. It was pretty abysmal. He needs to work on that hawk tackling. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to the DBs.
Okay. Because we got Richard Sherman, Jeremy Lane, Thorold Simon, Deshaun Shedd, and where we predicted guys would be here. We were looking at Marcus Burley. We were looking at Ty Smith. Both those guys cut. And instead, they go with DeAndre Elliott. You saw him out there wearing number 1 for the Seahawks against the Raiders. Looked pretty good. Actually, a couple pass breakups and near interception for DeAndre Elliott. Seahawks might be excited about what they have in him.
A good size as well. So he seems to be a Seahawky kind of corner.
Yeah, 6'1", and the length of arms that they look for.
Exactly. He has all the physical makeup, and he actually performed, too, throughout the preseason, which you can't say really about Thorold Simon, who still looked like he was struggling late in the game of the preseason game as well. I'm honestly a little surprised to see him on the roster. I know everybody thought he was a lock, but he's yet to put that talent together yet.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And I know that's been injuries for the first couple of years of his career, but he's been very healthy this year. So you were looking for at least some progress, and it feels a little like regress with Thorold Simon.
Yeah, and he was one of the guys, though, with Brandon Browner getting cut, that Pete Carroll pointed to as being able to be that guy, because the reporters asked him, what about this big plan to be able to cover tight ends with kind of a bigger type corner? And Pete Carroll pointed to Thorold Simon and Deshaun Shedd as the 2 guys that could potentially fill in that role.
Yeah, it's really interesting that Pete Carroll would just be like, oh, yeah, no, I'm just going to lie to you and tell you that, yes, there is still a plan to cover tight ends, and it's going to be one of these 2 guys. There is no plan. He doesn't care. None of them care. They just don't.
Yeah, until proven otherwise.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
The take we're
At this point, yeah. It's what is it, like Show Me Mondays or whatever it is that Pete Carroll says, or Show Me Tuesdays, where they put up tape and everybody talks about what they did right and did wrong. Well, show me you're going to cover a tight end. It's Show Me 2016. It's all year. I need to see it.
And then on the back end with safeties, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, of course, Kelsey McRae, and then rounding out the final 2, Tyvis Powell and Steven Terrell. Now, I didn't have Terrell making it, but I had Tyvis Powell. Tyvis, another guy who could also play corner. You saw him playing corner and kind of getting burned, I think, in the Cowboys game in particular. But that having that ability to be versatile, maybe he can kind of play into that role the same way Deshaun Shedd did, moving from safety to corner.
Yeah, a little bit. And we saw Powell was one of those guys that really shined in the early goings of the preseason. I mean, his Kansas City game was a very strong showing by him. So, one of those undrafted guys. And what is it? Something like 40% of the Seahawks roster is undrafted free agents.
Yeah.
Think about that for a minute. That's insane. And I think it's only like 2 players that are first round picks.
There's 2 players that are first round picks. Now, one of them, Earl Thomas. Can you name the other player? Try this trivia question with your Seahawks friends. One of them is Earl Thomas. The other first round pick is who?
Yeah.
Jermaine Ifedi. He was the first round pick this year.
Oh, wow.
But you have to think about it, too, because we haven't had a first round pick in so long.
Yeah, exactly. I was like,
had that exact same thought when I was trying to think of the other guy. And I had to go to the Seahawks roster. I'm like, of course, Jermaine Ifedi.
Well, thanks for making me feel better about the fact that I totally just had a brain dead moment. I'm sure half the listeners were like, Ifedi, duh.
I don't know. I'd try that with your Seahawks friends. See
like
their
that.
reaction.
That is good. That's a fun game.
Yeah.
That's a fun game. All right. Well, let's move on to special teams and the three specialists there. No surprises as far as Hauschka and John Ryan. But I'm still surprised that Nolan Freese is the guy at long snapper.
Mr. Freese still the guy. Despite reports throughout the week that the Seahawks had brought in another guy, turns out the actual player refuted those reports. Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Well,
apparently Freese had been hurt. Carroll said that Freese had been hurt in the games against the Vikings and the Cowboys, and so he should have those issues worked out. You see him making a lot of tackles on special teams, and I think maybe that's part of his appeal as a long snapper. I
don't know, man. I just still think that Clint Gresham is still out there. I think Nate Boyer's still out there.
Yeah.
I think there's dudes that could do this.
That's true. And your captains for the Seahawks, you have Russell Wilson, Cam Chancellor as your offensive and defensive captains, and then you got John Ryan and Deshaun Shedd as your co-captains.
Very cool, especially Deshaun Shedd. I mean, he's the embodiment of what it means to be a Seahawk. Undrafted free agent, has worked his way off the practice squad to get to this point, and now a very valuable member of that secondary. I mean, he is very much a Swiss Army knife for Chris Richard in the defensive backfield. I think he's an excellent pick for captain. And then as well as Cam, that's a little bit of a story, right? Because Cam is the guy who sat out last year and helped to blow up the season a little bit. And you can see how much he means to the entire team in the fact that he is an undisputed captain this year. I mean, that's kind of the way that Pete Carroll phrased it. And yeah, he's a big-time presence for them.
Other news items from the team, Patrick Lewis cut as center, claimed by the Bills as he came off waivers. And then Zach Brooks, the other seventh-round pick, along with Kenny Lawler, who were also cut.
Kenny Lawler ends up making the practice squad, though?
Yeah.
So good for him. Yeah, I guess I'm a little surprised that they gave up the insurance policy in Patrick Lewis. But apparently the Britt progression has bloomed, and they feel strongly that Justin Britt is going to be a quality starting center for the entire year.
Well, what do you say we talk about some Dolphins before we get into our interview with Sam Marcoux? And tell me if you've heard this one before, Adam, because we've been talking tight ends. So the Seahawks up by a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Opposing QB throws a touchdown pass to a tight end. They end up winning the game. That's what happened the last time the Seahawks and Dolphins played in 2012. That was in Miami, and it was Russell Wilson's first season, but that is how that game ended.
Gosh, that's right. That was, you know what? That game was one of those wow moments, though, for Russell Wilson, too. I'll never forget the play. A defensive lineman, it may have even been McDaniel when he was playing for the Dolphins. It was somebody like that, but busts through the offensive line right up the gut, right in Wilson's face almost immediately. He does that turn over his spin around his right shoulder, breaks out of the pocket, going left, throws a 20-odd-some yard laser to Sidney Rice right on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. And that was one of those plays where you go, whoa, this kid is special. That's a memorable game. That's interesting. I did not. I had erased it from my mind, though, as to how it ended. That's for sure.
Well, and the only reason I looked it up is because Miami Dolphins fans were chirping about how Tannehill's 1-0 against the Seahawks. So that was the one game.
That's pretty cool. Well, this is an interesting matchup, and this is super exciting. The idea that we get to actually talk about a regular season matchup when it matters with the big boys playing. This is great. Now, the hardest part about talking about this matchup is the Dolphins might be one of the biggest question marks in all of the league coming into this season.
Well, they're a new team in terms of they have a new head coach, Ryan Tannehill. As a quarterback, he actually has a coach who specializes in coaching up quarterbacks. And in Adam Gase, obviously his time with Peyton Manning in Denver as the offensive coordinator, and now with the Miami Dolphins. And yeah, there's a lot of unknowns with this team, but you do know that they have a strong pass rush, especially interior-wise with Ndamukong Suh.
Absolutely they do, and that's probably the strongest position group on that team is defensive line. You got Ndamukong Suh, you've got Cameron Wake, who is woefully underrated every single year, it seems like. He's an absolute terror on the edge. He got, who's the kid that just got paid by the Giants that was there? Olivier Vernon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Olivier Vernon ought to be sending about 25% of his paycheck to Cameron Wade.
Yeah, right.
Every week, because he definitely helped him get paid. There's no doubt about that. And then they bring in the enigmatic Mario Williams, who's at times been one of the most dominant forces in this league, where you could say J.J. Watt, Mario Williams, and Ndamukong Suh, like all in one breath and not be wrong. And then at times, people would laugh you off the face of the planet for saying that. And he's a bit older, a little long in the tooth, but he's also on that defensive line. That is strong for them. But if you look at some of their Pro Football Focus grades, the defensive line, it looks like it's their right side of that defensive line that has some struggles. I mean, because Mario Williams grades out pretty low for his performance last year, and then the other defensive end, which I'm blanking on his name right out of the gate here. But I think if you look at success early for the Seahawks, I think it's going to be running to the Seahawks left on the offensive line there, behind Glowinski, behind Sal, with Britt running combination blocks. And you saw the Seahawks have a lot of success running to the left side of the offensive line in the preseason. So I look to see a run-heavy attack early in this game and definitely running left. I think that's the spot to go.
I think they're going to be able to run at this defensive line no matter where they decide to go. Because part of that is that the Dolphins, they have absolutely... The Dolphins at linebacker, it's rough. And so I would look to see the Seahawks really test the Dolphins' ability to stop the run early. And they're notorious for not being able to stop the run. I really like the matchup.
And it should be a good way for the Seahawks to get started for the season, because oftentimes, and we've talked about this before, I know it's a cliche, but the defenses are ahead of the offenses. So if you can establish a run game, it keeps it simple. That just means you're out physicaling. There's a word for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jeez Louise, folks. But you have more physicality than the other team, and you're just pushing them around, and that should give you a good way to start. But you might also see the Seahawks come out and run a lot of quick slants, a lot of that rhythm passing game against the corners of the Miami Dolphins. I mean, you think about the idea that there is a rookie corner starting out there. I look to see the Seahawks try to get either, any of Baldwin, Cursor, Lockett out there to challenge Howard. Hasn't been great in preseason, hasn't been bad, but he's just a rookie. Now, on the flip side, you have Byron Maxwell, who had a dumpster fire of a season last year. We'll see if this system is a better fit for him and if he can make an uptick in his play. But, besides that, I mean, they do have a great safety in Rashad Jones. Mm-hmm. He's a fine player. He's maybe a top 5, top 8 safety in the league.
Maybe even top 3.
Maybe. You can make the case, I suppose.
Yeah.
But
Earl Thomas, Eric Berry, and then maybe Rashad Jones.
Yeah, okay. All right. I could get with you on that. So this defense, while you look at that defensive line, it will be a handful for this offensive line. This is a great test to start out with the offensive line, because at least they're not going to have to be in pass protection quite as on it as they have been, say the Vikings game, where they actually have some cover corners and some good safeties where that resulted in some coverage sacks. Russell Wilson will be able to get the ball out on time and in rhythm.
Yeah, the fact that they're starting second-round pick Xavier Howard at corner, it really speaks to their limited amount of depth they have at corner. I really like the fact that that's going to be a place I think that Russell Wilson's going to be able to exploit.
You betcha. So yeah, I do see the Seattle offense having some success with the Miami defense. Now, let's look at the flip side here, and that's the Miami offense going up against the Seattle Seahawks defense. And I think this is where the bigger enigma is, right? Because we saw Tannehill look decent in the preseason. We know that Adam Gase has a reputation of being a quarterback whisperer, in the sense that, think about the fact that he had Jay Cutler put together a solid season without doing all the boneheaded Jay Cutler things. He did that with Jay Cutler. He took Tim Tebow to the playoffs. He won a playoff game with Tim Tebow as his quarterback. He took an aging Peyton Manning and got 2 great years out of him. Now, they didn't win the chip when he was there, but he got him to a Super Bowl as well. He's very adaptable. He knows how to adapt his offense to talent. It sounds like they're going to run a little bit more hurry-up stuff. How do you feel about this Miami offense?
I think they have a sneaky good group of wide receivers with Landry, clearly the best wide receiver. I think Kenny Stills. I think what you saw from him in the preseason, I think he can be and he's one of those little quick guys too. Now Sherman we've seen from Sherm that he can cover guys like Antonio Brown last year against the Steelers, but traditionally he's had some tough matchups with the smaller guys. But if he's just going to stay on the right side of the field, I think Devontae Parker is probably the guy that usually lines up there, and he may not even play in this game.
There's a lot of weapons there. Now, the one guy that we're all should be thinking about is tight end, right? Mm-hmm. And it's Jordan Cameron, the tight end, and a guy that has some pedigree from the Browns. I remember him being a free agent a couple years ago and thinking, gosh, he'd be great to pick up, because that's when we were kind of in our tight end drought. And that's right when we picked up Jimmy Graham.
And the Dolphins picked up Jordan Cameron around the same time they sent Charles Clay, the tight end who was there before, up to Buffalo. Clay was the guy that scored the touchdown in 2012 to tie the game up late in the game, but now he's gone. So maybe that's a downgrade.
And he's played pretty well up in Buffalo. Now, give the Dolphins some credit, because the Bills did that poison pill thing almost with Charles Clay and gave him a monster number that the Bills couldn't match. I remember that being a big hubbubaloo back then. But yeah, apparently, Cameron, I thought he'd be a great fit in that offense, but maybe not. He hasn't had a lot of great seasons. But hey, if it's ever time to get right in your career, be a tight end and run the seam route against the Seattle Seahawks. So we'll see how that goes.
And then Tannehill having a great preseason, and Arian Foster getting the start at running back for the Dolphins.
Doesn't this feel so much like Frank Gore starting running back for the Indianapolis Colts?
It does. I don't know if Foster's that old, but it kind of feels like he is.
But he feels that old. Like, you can be... He's physically that old, if that makes any sense. His body has been... he's been a China doll for 3-4 years now. And he was a great player, don't get me wrong. I think Arian Foster was a dynamic running back for quite some time. Now, I just don't think he's got it left in the tank anymore. And they give up Lamar Miller in the offseason through free agency, who... a lot of people rate him a lot higher than I do, but he was at least, serviceable.
Sure.
So we'll see if Foster has anything left in the tank. It'll be interesting. I don't think he's going to get very far against this Seattle defense, although a little bit of a struggle stopping the run at times this preseason. So I think that's a big thing to watch. I'm definitely going to be looking at the left side of our defensive line and seeing how they hold up against the run early. I think that's going to be a big key.
And as far as the Dolphins line goes, I think pretty average. And I don't think there's anybody spectacular to talk about there. Pouncey, their center.
But there's nobody bad either.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty average overall. Balanced. A balanced average line.
Well, they've spent draft capital on that offensive line. I mean, Brandon Albert's a decent left tackle. I mean, he was a first-round pick. Now you got Laramie Tunsil at left guard, first-round pick. Marquis, is it Marquis or the other Pouncey? It's one of the Pounceys.
One of the Pounceys.
That plays center. And
Mike.
Yeah. Mike Pouncey, and he's kind of I don't like his personality, but he's a heck of a center. I think he's better than his Pro Football Focus grade. Jermaine Bushrod has been a quality starter in this league. I know nothing about the right tackle, James.
Well, he has an apostrophe in his name, so you can take that for what you will. Usually guys I guess it can go one or two ways, because you got DeBrickashaw Ferguson, who was an outstanding tackle, and then you have Jamarcus Webb, who, so-so.
So, you bet. That's interesting. This will be the guy to sway that theory one way or the other, right?
I think so. Well, he'll be the telling point as far as whether or not you want a guy with an apostrophe in his name starting on the offensive line.
Gotcha. All right, who you got as your starting strong side linebacker in this game for the Seahawks?
Starting strong side linebacker. It's got to be Mike Morgan.
It's going to be Mike Morgan, I think, too. And it'll be interesting to see how his steady play works in with the rest of the defense here.
I think he's just one of those guys that you have in there run stopping on early downs, and he's filled that role pretty well in the past. If that's our one weakness, we've said it in the past, that's not a terrible weak point on the team to have.
No, absolutely not. But
I mean, you do want to be able to stop the run on first and second down. That's really what the Seahawks team is about, right? Shutting them down on first and second down, and then on third down, you can send the pass rush after everybody.
Let's hope that works. And let's hope we see a pass rush, because again, in the preseason, I was underwhelmed by the pass rush, especially the starting group throughout most of the preseason.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the sacks that they had were kind of mop-up sacks. They were coverage sacks, really. I didn't see a lot of guys just getting beat immediately and quick pressure on the quarterback. So I'm a little nervous about that, but we'll see. We'll see if that shows up here in this first game. Now, again, it is just week 1, so let's not get too amped up over what we see coming out of week 1. But again, these are the games that count, and we're going to see how it goes. I feel like this is going to be a fairly low-scoring affair. I think it's going to be like Seahawks 17, Dolphins 10.
Now, an interesting thing to me is seeing the Seahawks favored by more than 10 points already in this game. For a team that starts out kind of slow, that seems like a lot of that's some high confidence out there, apparently, among the betting public with the Seahawks. I
mean, factor in a few things. It is the home opener, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Which everybody's always jazzed for, and the stadium's going off the charts. Also, too, the Seahawks record at CenturyLink with Russell Wilson as quarterback is nearly gold. I mean, he rarely loses there. So you combine those two factors, and the factor that this is a team that in the Dolphins that is coming together under new leadership, and there's probably going to be a time to adjust. I can see why the betting public go there. I guess, like you, Brandon, being a bit of a realist, I say this is a team that does start out slow. So if it ends up being like 17-10 or they win by 3 or 7, that feels about right to me. Heck, if they blow the Dolphins out, I'm going to be doing dances all throughout the game and be real excited, even if I have to watch it in the sawmill on the tablet while it's going on.
Well, what do you say we get to some more Dolphins talk with the host of the Perfectville podcast, Sam Marcoux?
Sounds good, man. He's great. Stay tuned for this interview.
And we're back, and we're joined by Sam Marcoux, host of the Perfectville podcast. It's a Miami Dolphins podcast. He's also co-host of the Predictably Drunk podcast, and he'll be performing at the Comedy Underground Thursday through Saturday, downtown Seattle, Pioneer Square. Sam, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, you guys, and Merry Football Christmas. We are just about to have, the first game of the season against your beloved Seahawks and my hated Miami Dolphins.
You say hated Miami Dolphins, and Adam is a notorious Miami Dolphin hater.
I am a notorious Miami Dolphin hater, but I am in agreement with Sam. I mean, we started off the show with me saying on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at a 5,000 level of excitement for the fact that the season is starting. And here we go. We start out with your Miami Dolphins. So, Sam, let's start out with, as a Seahawks fan, I mean, we're obviously very into the moves and everything that's gone on in the offseason for our team, but we don't follow a lot of the AFC teams, let alone the AFC East teams, super closely. I know you guys brought in Byron Maxwell. I know you got rid of Brent Grimes. I know there's Adam Gase is now the head coach. What are some of the big things that have happened for you guys this offseason and things that have you most fired up for this team going forward this year?
Well, to be honest with you, I think the moves that you just said are probably the biggest ones that we actually had. I mean, at number one, we got rid of an insurance salesman as our head coach in Joe Philbin last year, and his meathead replacement, Dan Campbell. As much as we liked him for about 2 weeks, we got sick of the Oklahoma drills after about the third week of him being in office there. So getting Adam Gase was huge for us. He is a little bit of a quarterback whisperer. He's worked with Jay Cutler. He's worked with Peyton Manning in Denver. And quite frankly, after 5 years in the league, we still don't know what we have in Ryan Tannehill. And this is a quarterback-driven league. As you guys know, you guys have a great one there with Russell Wilson. So to get a guy who is focused on the quarterback and making a quarterback-centric offense was huge for us. And the good thing for Adam Gase is if it doesn't work out as being a head coach for the Miami Dolphins, he can go back to the rightful heir of the throne to the British Empire, because that guy looks exactly like Prince William over there. I don't know if you guys have looked at him recently. He is a dead ringer.
Well, Sam, you talk about the quarterback position, and you have to be fired up based off of Ryan Tannehill's preseason. Pro Football Focus had him rated as the top quarterback throughout the preseason. How has he looked to you?
Night and day. And to be quite honest, I don't know if people know this. Again, and I don't know if Seahawks fans would know this, because there's no reason for you to really pay attention to the Dolphins unless you're gambling on them or if you have them on your fantasy team. But Ryan Tannehill has never been allowed to actually audible out of the play that was called at the line of scrimmage. And can you imagine that? Imagine being Ryan Tannehill. You're a professional quarterback. You have a $90 million contract, and you are the face of the franchise. And you get up to the line of scrimmage, and you see that 4 linebackers are getting ready to blitz, and you know which ones are coming and which ones are actually going to drop back. And you know that the play that's called is not going to work, yet you can't call out of that play. To the average fan, once he gets sacked, and usually he would get sacked in that situation, you go, wow, Ryan Tannehill held onto the ball too long and he sucks. This offense, now that he's in, Adam Gase has basically told him, if you want to audible out of a play, go ahead and audible out of the play. You're the quarterback. You're the leader. You need to do that. And he's been doing that in preseason, and he's been doing it to much success. I mean, he looks like a poor man's Peyton Manning out there with all the hand signals and tapping the helmet and getting people, into winning positions. So as a fan of the Miami Dolphins, yes, I'm pretty excited to see what Ryan Tannehill can do this year. I think we're finally going to get the answer after 5 years as to whether he is a franchise quarterback or not.
It's funny, Sam. You talk about you don't really know what you have in Tannehill, and it's been 5 years. But in a way, that kind of seems like the proper progression for him, because coming out of college, he had played some wide receiver in college even, and was one of the more raw talents coming out of that draft. And to be honest, I'm kind of high on Tannehill.
Yeah, I've been back and forth with Tannehill. I do think in the past that he has held onto the ball in certain situations a little bit too long. I mean, I'm sure you guys have been there where you're screaming at your television going, just get rid of the ball, because he's holding onto it too long. He's trying to make a play. He doesn't want to just bail on the play, and I can respect that. However, there's, it's one of those things where, by the way, every Miami Dolphins fan on earth is very aware that he used to play wide receiver. It is the only tidbit that every national broadcaster brings up about Ryan Tannehill in every single game. It's like, did you know he used to play wide receiver? Like, yes, we know.
It's like Jerome Bettis is from Detroit.
So it's just one of those things where I think it is a little bit of a natural progression. I think if you look at his stats, if you were to just look at his stats in terms of the yards thrown, he's actually been pretty prolific. If you're a fantasy football player, owner, I should say, this is a guy you'd probably want on your team as a back end starter or some sort of backup quarterback. But he hasn't won, and I think that's the bottom line. This is a performance driven league. This is a results driven league, and he's got a losing record as the Miami Dolphins quarterback. It's been 4 years, and you look at some of the players like Russell Wilson. You look at Andrew Luck. You look at Ben Roethlisberger when he first came into the league. You look at that idiot down there in San Diego when he came into the league, and these rookie quarterbacks and 2-year players were doing very well, almost immediately. And Tannehill hasn't had that yet. So, it's a very impatient fan base, and we're looking for something to finally click with him, and we can go, all right, we can go focus on something else now.
Well, while we're on the topic of offense, let's talk about running back. The Dolphins decide to go with old man Arian Foster in the backfield instead of the young guy Jay Ajayi. How are you feeling about that?
I like Arian Foster in terms of the veteran presence. If you look at the Miami Dolphins, they're very young across the skill position players. I mean, Jay Ajayi is in his second year. Devontae Parker is in his second year. Jarvis Landry is the grizzled vet in his third year at wide receiver. They don't have a lot of experience, shall I say, at the skill position. So having Arian Foster there is good. I don't know if anybody's really relying on him to do much of anything from a performance standpoint. I mean, I could see him going for 1,000 yards, and I could see him, stepping wrong off the steps on game one and severing every ligament in his body. So it can go one of either way. But I like him. I like him in the backfield. I like him being on the Miami Dolphins. I just don't know what to expect out of him, to be quite honest with you.
If I had one group of guys that I would really pinpoint as the Miami Dolphins' strength, apart from Tannehill, you guys have a great group of receivers.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're 100% right. That is our strength. Jarvis Landry's in his third year, as I mentioned. Through the first 2 seasons of his career, no wide receiver has ever caught more passes in the league than Jarvis Landry, which, he's kind of done it on the sneak, too. I mean, a lot of people are, they know Odell Beckham Jr., his partner in crime over there in LSU, and they know who Juice is, but they don't know how good he's actually been. He is by far and away our best wide receiver and our best weapon on offense other than Ryan Tannehill. Devontae Parker is a huge body. He's probably not going to play in week 1, and I get the feeling that Adam Gase isn't really a big Devontae Parker fan. And I say that based on a lot of the comments that have come out about trying to get him to be a professional, making sure that he gets up and gets to practice on time and eats breakfast. I mean, this guy's a professional athlete and forgets to eat food, which is probably why he's got a lot of the injuries that he has, including both hamstrings being pulled here recently. Kenny Stills is a wide receiver that came out of New Orleans in that system with Drew Brees. Kind of had a disappointing year last year for us, but has done phenomenal in preseason. Yeah. And he's a guy that's going to try to take the top off the back end of your defense here in week 1. So those three, along with a couple of very talented rookies in Jakeem Grant and Leonte Carew, make for a pretty substantial wide receiving core, in my opinion.
All right, as a Seahawks fan, Sam, our number one concern always, because they kill us every week and it's never going to stop, because apparently the defensive coordinator, Chris Richard, just could care less. Who's your tight end and how good is he? Because that's where we get killed every single game. Tight end up the seam all day, every day.
Yeah, we might be fans of the same team. That's pretty much one of the main things that hurts us on defense, too, is a seam-ripping tight end that just goes right up the middle, and all of our guys go, hey, who's got him? Nobody? Great. Touchdown, other team. Our tight end right now, that's a very good question. We don't really know. It's technically Jordan Cameron, who had some success with Cleveland a couple years ago, had a very disappointing first season with us last year, and has looked like dog catfish here in preseason. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. He has dropped multiple passes, including a couple of ones against the Dallas Cowboys that would have been touchdowns. And they're right in his breadbasket. Tannehill delivered it right where it was supposed to be, and he decided he didn't really want to play football that day and dropped him. So in terms of matchups for you guys, if you're worried about tight ends, you've got the right opponent week 1, because we don't really have one.
Well, let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball, Sam, and really where I see the strength of your guys' team, especially within the pass rush. You got Ndamukong Suh and you got Wake there on the defensive line, Cameron Wake, and then at safety, one of the better safeties in the league too, Rashad Jones. Talk about how you feel about this defense going forward.
If I could correct you, the best safety in the NFL, Rashad Jones. You hear that, Seahawker Nation?
No.
You guys have a couple of talented ones out there. Don't get me wrong. We love Earl Thomas as well. We wanted him when he got drafted. But Rashad Jones, much like Jarvis Landry, is highly underrated as a safety. Obviously kind of teasing a little bit, but he's up there. He's one of the best safeties in the league. You're absolutely right. And the strength of the defense is the defensive line. And Ndamukong Suh, you've got Cameron Wake, who snapped his Achilles tendon mid-season last year. He was averaging a sack a game. I figured it was the end of his career in Miami. He's getting up there in age. This guy comes back and is already playing in preseason games, and he's going to be used as a pass rush specialist this season. So he won't be starting necessarily against the run, but in obvious passing downs, he'll be in there, and he looks explosive, which surprises me because coming off of an Achilles tendon injury, I fully expected him to lose the biggest strength that he had, which is getting off the line in an incredible speed. His timing is just impeccable in terms of getting that snap count correct. You also have people like Mario Williams, who, has been known to dog it in his career, but he seems to be revitalized here in Miami. I'm not sure how much he's going to do. He still looks a little bit slow to me, but Mario Williams is on that line as well. So you have a lot of veterans who are paid a lot of money to hit the opposing quarterback. I mean, that's really what they're getting paid to do. So if they can stop the run and put people in obvious passing downs, they'll be okay. But on the back end, we do have Byron Maxwell. You guys know him well. He's lost about 12 pounds. He's looking much faster than he did with the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't like his uniform as much because, for whatever reason, he's got these weird wings for sleeves. They're huge. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It looks like at any point he's just going to fly away. So I think he's got to get some wardrobe changes here, but we have him starting as well as a rookie named Xavier Howard at cornerback. It is a weakness. Our linebackers are awful. I expect some long days on Sunday with Kiko Alonso being the middle linebacker. I think my 3-year-old daughter is bigger than him. He looks tiny out there. So really, we're going to go on defense how the defensive line goes, in my opinion.
Well, and for the defensive line to be so strong on the pass rush, not very strong when it comes to the stopping the run. I heard you say very, very clearly, if you can stop the run, can the Miami Dolphins stop the run?
I guess we'll find out on Sunday. I mean, the good news is beast mode is officially turned off for the Seattle Seahawks, and Thomas Rawls seems to be actually made his own miraculous recovery from a broken ankle to play in preseason. I was kind of impressed by that. So, to be honest with you, I don't know. We looked really good against the Atlanta Falcons in our dress rehearsal preseason game 3. However, I'd like to see them do it again against an actual football team like the Seattle Seahawks, because the Falcons aren't much of a threat to anybody these days. But we'll see. I mean, the Tennessee Titans ran all over us in game 4 against our backups, so our depth isn't very good. And it's going to be one of those things where you have to wait and see. We have no idea who's going to show up, and I think it's going to be, for the Miami Dolphins fan base out there, it's probably going to be week to week in terms of if we're good or not. Really just going to depend on who the opponent is.
So with Tom Patriot being sat down for 4 games here and, kind of leaving the division a little more wide open, what's your final prediction as far as Miami Dolphins, their record this year, where you guys are going? Is this still maybe a bit of a transitional year? Are you looking at this as like, yes, at least the playoffs or maybe even a division win? What's your gut kind of tell you here, Sam?
My gut tells me that the division is not wide open. I think Tom Brady is going to come back in week 5 and just destroy the rest of the league. And the New England Patriots, make no mistake about it, are winning the AFC East. Nobody else is going to be even close. The Buffalo Bills are terrible. They keep having people retire, suspended, or injured. The New York Jets are still trying to figure out where that ball is that Mark Sanchez fumbled against his center's butt 3 years ago. They have no idea what's going on. The Miami Dolphins, at best, I think could be second place in that division, and that's if a few breaks happen for them. But quite honestly, we are in a transition year. I mean, we're talking about a rookie head coach. We're talking about starting 2 or 3 rookies across both the offense and the defense and trying to get, back to putting the train back on the track. So I think if they were to go 8-8, possibly 9-7, Miami Dolphins fans have to be supremely happy with that effort. But quite frankly, I think the bottom is going to be 5-11, 6-10. The ceiling's about 8-8, 9-7 for this season.
Sam Marcoux, host of the Perfectville podcast and the Predictably Drunk podcast. As I mentioned, he'll be performing at the Comedy Underground Thursday through Saturday. Sam, for those folks who come to the comedy show this week, what can they expect?
Well, this is where I think even if we're competing this weekend as football teams go, we can really agree on the fact that we all hate the 49ers. I'll be talking a little bit about the 49ers. I'll be talking a little bit about the Oakland Raiders, your guys' former rivals when you guys were in the AFC. You can expect a lot of hilarity there. One of the guys that's going to be there, his name's Kabir Singh, and if you've never seen him, you're in for a treat. This guy's one of the hottest comedians on the planet. He is a writer for Family Guy. Yes, Family Guy on Fox. He won the 2014 San Francisco International Comedy Competition, which is actually paired with the Seattle Comedy Competition, which takes place at the Comedy Underground. He just finished second in the World Series of Comedy this weekend in Las Vegas, which is one of the largest comedy competitions on the planet. He will be headlining all those shows. He is a huge Seattle Seahawks fan. So for the Seahawk Nation, go on out there and support your boy Kabir Singh. And for the Dolphins fans that are going to be in the audience or in the area, come on out and support me. I'm a huge Miami Dolphins fan. It's just going to be a great time. And if you come to the late shows are at 10:30 on both Friday and Saturday night. Chances are you're going to be in for what might be a train wreck, because one thing about comedians, and you guys can appreciate this, is we love our beer, we love our alcohol. And when you get to the last show of a weekend when you're on the road, which is going to be Saturday night, the 10:30 show, all bets are off.
And once the Seahawks win on Sunday, where can folks razz you on Twitter?
You can find me at Tiger Clomedy. And actually, you know what? I'm terrible with Twitter, but we just started a Twitter for our podcast. So you can get me at Perfectville Pod. And it's myself and my co-host Chris Cullen. We control that. It's usually me, but sometimes he gets on there. And usually when things are misspelled, Chris is in charge of the Twitter. But you can find the whole staff. We actually, our website, welcome-to-perfectville.com, is a huge hub for all things Miami Dolphins. We talk, we have blogs on there. We have an almost doctor. This guy is a pre-med student, and he writes all about injuries. So it's really interesting, even if you're not a Dolphins fan, to learn about the types of football injuries and what you can expect in terms of recovery. But you can find us right there at Perfectville Pod on Twitter.
Sam, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And good luck to you on Sunday.
Hey, thank you guys very much. This is a great show. I had a blast. And good luck to you guys starting week 2.
On this week's 3 in 3 Out, the preseason wrapped with yet another fourth quarter comeback. So just how ready are our Hawks for week 1 versus the Fish? We'll be saying a tearful goodbye to the future ghosts of white smoke. We'll debate whether or not we have a Morgan Stanley or a Morgan Freeman on our team. And we'll even project the first 4 games of the soon-to-be season. It's go time for our Hawks. So dive into this week's edition of 3 in 3 Out, written exclusively for the Seahawkers podcast. Go Hawks.
The Seahawkers podcast is the official podcast of the official booster club of the Seattle Seahawks. A big thanks to Sam Marcoux for coming on the show. Also, Clinton Bonner, make sure to check out his post coming up.
You betcha, man. If you didn't read his last week's 3 in 3 Out, you missed out, because he's really bringing the heat. It's great stuff. If you are a Seahawks fan and not reading that, you need to do better.
Speaking of people who have done better and who have joined the flock, we have a lot of new members of the flock to welcome on. We got a lot of voice feedback this week that I want to make sure and play, Adam, and got a couple reviews too. That people from overseas answered the call, and we got some overseas reviews in iTunes to get to. So a lot of feedback. This is going to be a heavy second half of the show. We'll try and get to everybody's stuff. We'll do our best, and of course, we have Do Better and Better at Life.
Awesome, man. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with people who have now entered the flock?
Let's start with them. We have, first, we had a one-time donation from Jason Kyler Yano, a fan donation of $12. Thanks to Jason for that. And then welcome to the flock to Mark Law, who's in for a sticker and bonus shows. Perhaps the biggest Eastern Washington University fan we know, Adam. And now that Mark is in the flock, does that mean you're going to dial back on bashing the Eastern Washington Eagles?
No. They still suck. Their field's still ugly, and I still hate them. How about that? But thanks, Mark. I'm glad you're in the flock.
I don't think he'll take offense. He expects no less.
Right. Well, I got to be true to myself, man. I don't know. Go Grizz.
We got a $1 pledge from Mr. Person. I like the anonymity. Just Mr. Person.
Mr. Person. That's better than John Doe, right?
Right.
Mr. Person. I like it.
And then we have Doc Scott joining the flock. Welcome to the flock, Doc. And we got, and that rhymes. That was totally unintentional.
Yeah. Okay.
Got an email from Doc, says, "Hi guys, it's been a while since I dropped you an email, so I thought I would touch base before the start of the season next Sunday. Firstly, thank you for making the offseason go quicker. It's true. I think you guys have learned how to bend time and space, as it does not feel like 7 months. I must admit your podcast was on my to-do list for a while, and I had built up a bit of a backlog because we had Euro football, otherwise known as soccer, championships this summer, and because I listened to 4 to 5 other weekly podcasts, UFC, football, film, Joe Rogan, and WWE. Yes, I watch WWE too.
All the way in the UK. Wow.
Yeah. Well, and shoot, if you're listening to Joe Rogan every week too, that's going to fill up a lot of your time.
Yes.
NFL loses its priority during the offseason, and to that, all the music I have that I have to listen to for DJ gigs, etc. And I've just started promoting my own night here in London. And well, there's only so many hours in a week, so yeah, work has to come first.
That absolutely makes sense. But for all of you that kind of take the off season off and then join us, right about now, this point of the season, welcome back. Like, yeah, there's no crime in that, man. We're not mad at you if you need to take some time off. I get it.
Exactly. Anyway, I have binge listened through July, August, re-upped my subscription to NFL Game Pass so I could watch all the preseason action. And having just returned from 3 weeks in the States where NFL is in full swing, I can't wait for Sunday and the season to start. I'm writing this email from Sardinia, Italy, where I'm just preparing to play at the Sun and Bass Festival, having just left the amazing Outlook Festival in Croatia. And whilst all this is very exciting, it's not as exciting as the upcoming season for the Hawks. I, like many, think we can go all the way again this year. I've been really impressed with Michael and Boykin in the preseason and just how good it was to see Rawls back in the field last weekend. I don't want to go on too long, but again, thank you for your sterling work in keeping us Hawks fans up to date and entertained wherever we are all over the world. Oh, and Adam, Pokemon Go is cool. Go Hawks.
What?
Doc Scott.
Doc, I had all sorts of great things to say about you until just now. But no, that's okay. You can think it's cool. Just don't get hit by a truck while you're playing, okay? Like, exactly. Just eyes up, dude.
Safety first.
Safety first. That's all I'm asking. Now, if you are in Italy right now, where Doc is and he's performing, go see him, man. It'll be a fun show. You're not gonna be disappointed.
Welcome to the flock to Jesse Smith in for a sticker and bonus, and then the folks who've entered the Patron League. We got James Gurley. Welcome to the flock. Pat Stiles, welcome to you as well. Michael Grotenheis upped his from 1 to 3. So welcome to the Patron Leagues, Michael. Jake Harris, welcome to the flock. We also, man, this is a long list. Chris Fry, welcome to the flock. Keone McMahon, welcome to you as well. Andrew Carlson III, into the Patron League. JR and KC, welcome to the flock. And finally, Kevin Goat Short, KGS, into the flock as well, and the Pick'em League, and two final people who are now in our Facebook Ring of Honor. Danny Sarayuth, welcome to the flock, and Aaron Hood, welcome to you as well.
Yeah, and the Ring of Honor is really fun. We haven't talked about that a lot. We've talked a lot about the Pick'em League, which you guys should get in. Get in the flock and get in the Patreon Pick'em League. I mean, get a chance to win a Hall of Famers signed jersey. I mean, it's buying $3 a month. That's cheaper than lottery tickets. Come on. Like this, and you have an actual chance. This is a game of skill, right? Picking games.
Right.
You have a chance. But the Ring of Honor, it's a lot of fun. Now, Brandon, you're far more online than I am, but that's actually some place that I check in and ping in as well. If you want more contact with us and some of the other diehards of the show, it's a cool forum. If you get in the Ring of Honor, you get to talk to a lot of great folks, and the discussion is always lively and always really fun.
Yeah, it's a fun place to hang out as you watch the game and kind of chat about some of the big plays going on throughout the game. So
we do that. Yeah, that's one of the places. I don't think I'm going to be doing the Twittering during the game. It's just exhausting. But I think I will be involved on the Ring of Honor Facebook page. So make your donation, guys. Get in the Ring of Honor. If you want a little more interaction, if you want to get in touch with some more 12s that are just as diehard as you, that's a place to do it.
But yes, as Adam mentioned, the patron-only Pick'em League starting, and if you don't want to get into the patron league, we have our Seahawkers podcast league as well. Go to SeahawkersPodcast.com. You can join that league. We'll have a KJ Wright autographed football going to the winner of the Seahawkers podcast league. The patron league, you're going to want to get in early on if you're going to score as many points as you can. The deadline really is get in Thursday. Pick the winner for the Thursday game against the Broncos and the Carolina Panthers, and you'll be off on your way to hopefully winning a Steve Largent jersey. So, because Adam can't win.
Oh no, I'm winning. It's happening. I need that. I need it.
The more people, the better that can take down Adam. Yes, the more people, the better.
Hey man, you know what I'm all about? Competition. Just like the Seahawks, man. I'm in on the competition. This is great. But we appreciate you guys donating to the show. Again, if we make that goal of $1,200 a month, we will be doing live, or not live, well, maybe live breakdowns after the game, like post-game reactions right away. You'll get more content. The other thing, too, is if you do just want more content, and we don't even have to make the goal. Just do the $1 a month and you get the bonus shows.
Yeah. Once a week, you get a bonus show. So for those of you that can't go a full week without jonesing for more Seahawks talk, you can get the bonus show. It's a nice, 20 minutes, half hour. And yes, every week, get yourself a bonus show. Getintheflock.com. That's where you go to sign up. That'll take you to our Patreon page.
You betcha. And get in the Pick'em Leagues. Get in the Pick'em Leagues. All of them.
Get in there. And
yeah, because how much does the Seahawkers, just the regular Seahawkers podcast Pick'em League cost you, Brandon?
$0.
You have nothing to lose. Get in there. Now, did we figure out the problem with the links on the website? Because I know I've had issues with that.
We did. I figured it out. You need to be logged in to your NFL.com account before. So create an NFL.com account and then click the link to join the individual league. So if you're getting an error page, that's what's happening.
Well, good deal, man. So thanks again to all those who donate. We appreciate it more than you know. And basically the way we look at it, it's value for value. If we add value to your life with the show, help us out too. It's cool. It makes everybody feel good.
And if not, that's fine too. Exactly. One thing that's really cool that's coming, the Fantasy Footballers podcast is beta testing an RSS feed for the bonus shows. So if you don't like, I think that the Patreon app has gotten a whole lot better for listening to individual bonus shows. But if you like to have all of your shows in one place, into your own podcatcher that you use, it sounds like coming down the pike, there's going to be an RSS feed for those bonus shows too. So, yeah, I'm
not exactly sure what that means, but it sounds cool. I'm sure there's a lot of people that get that more than I do, but that sounds great. We'll keep doing it, man. We'll keep coming at you. So, another thing is you guys were awesome with emails and phone calls this week. Let's get into that a little bit. What do you say? Oh, and reviews. Do you want to hit reviews first?
Let's hit reviews first. Got two. First one checking in from Australia, B-Style05. This will make you better at life than Skip Bayless. Have been listening to the podcast during the off season and have really been impressed with this podcast. I have learned so much about the game and the Seahawks and has really got me pumped up for the upcoming season. Apart from the infrequent railing of Pokemon Go, this is a quality podcast.
That's fair. I'm not bringing it's going to be brought up in another email later too. We're not getting into more Pokemon Go. No. We're just not going to do it.
This one from Danny in Thailand, our first review from Thailand. Says, don't miss or you'll regret till next life. If you're a Seahawks fan and miss these two cool gentlemen's show, you already regret in this life. But good news, you still have a chance to discover what the real Seahawks world looks like. Subscribe and enjoy your Seahawks world now, else your world will regret until next life. If you're an NFL fan or never know about American football, this is where you can learn and enjoy football, not just a concept, but the facts and fun throughout the show. My little tip, make sure you download it or able to stream it listening till the end, or you will be upset. Thank you, Adam and Brandon, to make traveling time between Thailand and Myanmar a better day with your show. I am doing better in listening to your guys' show. Go Hawks.
Awesome. Thanks, man. And, what I really like about that review is that he points out it doesn't just screw up your life right now. It screws up future lives that you can have, in reincarnations. So
right.
I think that's an important factor. And, the other thing he points out, click subscribe, people. Do it.
All right. Well, let's hear what Ross from the UK Seahawkers podcast has to say. He sent in a question.
Hey guys, Ross here from the Pedestrian Podcast, the official UK Seahawkers podcast. I have a question for you. On our podcast, our version of Adam has a unnatural dislike for number 15, the wonderful Jermaine Kearse, Mr. Clutch. I'm just wondering if either of you guys have a player on our team who, let's say you're not the biggest fan of. Great show, guys, and keep up the good work. Go Hawks.
Thanks, Ross.
Yeah, man. Super cool to hear from Ross again. It still cracks me up to no end that there's an alternate universe where there's an Adam on another Seahawkers podcast. It's great. But much like my kindred spirit, other Adam, I have a player that irks me on a fairly regular basis. And we talked about him a little earlier in the show, actually, Brandon. That's none other than Stonehands Luke Wilson. Now, I know you said that he figured it out this last year and all that, but seriously, once the coincidence, twice the trend, three times, either it's a you problem or you got it, like you fixed it. And I need to see a lot more from Luke Wilson. His inconsistency, he's not the greatest blocker. He's inconsistent catching the ball. He was touted to be like the speediest tight end of all time, coming out of the draft. And he's not particularly fast. He's just, he gets under my skin. He annoys me. And I don't even like his hair. And he spells his name wrong. Like, he just annoys me.
I guess if you're going to pick that to annoy you, the name spelling wrong thing, I can get with that. But that's about it.
But not the rest of it?
No, I like Luke Wilson. I think he's coming around.
All right. Well, that's fine. Now, do you have a guy that bothers you, Brandon? Because it's okay. It's okay. It's like, I know you have 3 daughters, right? There's one that bothers you more than the other 2. And I'm not going to make you say it on air, but it happens. There is. You still love them.
Right.
Yeah, you go to the end of the earth for him, but one of them just bugs you a little more.
Well, and the one guy for me who that would be, and a lot of people really, really love this guy. And yes, he can be super funny at times, and I would agree with that. But the guy that tends to get under my skin is Michael Bennett.
Really?
So that's my guy.
I'm not super surprised because I don't know if you knew this about yourself, but controversy and you don't mix well. And he definitely finds his way into controversy quite often. So I could see how he makes you uncomfortable as a fan.
It's not so much the controversy stuff. It's like, I don't need to hear you talking about having sex with your wife, like every single interview.
Yeah, right. Well, there's that. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's where Russell Wilson picked it up when he started talking about him and Ciara right after the wedding.
That could be. All right, getting into emails. Here's one from Nathan Bloomfield. Says, hey guys, this is Nathan, and I've been listening to your podcast for just almost a year now, and I love it. I started listening about when the Hawks were just starting to make their cuts last year. But now, the one sentence that got me hooked on the show from Adam has apparently vanished from his mind, and he has now completely changed his mind about the matter. I very distinctly remember hearing Adam say to Kristen Michael, don't let the door hit you on the way out after he was cut from the team. I just thought I would bring up this story because it makes me laugh every time I listen to you talk about Michael and how his newfound talent and how he's found his newfound talent. Thanks for the awesome show, and go Hawks.
Now, that's a great email. One of the funny things is that it's funny to me that some of you all will remember things that we said that I'll never remember that I said or that Brandon ever said.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, I say a lot of dumb stuff on here. Now, the thing is with the Kristen Michael, don't let the door hit you. Like, I get it because he needed it at that time. It was tough love. It's tough love. And now that he's straightened up and flying right, now you bring him back in the flock, man. You give him some love and you say, switch hands with the ball. You know, be a great teammate. Think about your assignments. Master pass blocking. And he's been doing that. So he just grew as a person.
Well, and you say you may forget some of these things, but the thing is about our show being out there and on tape and able to go back to, with the help of Nathan, Adam, we tracked down the original clip. Here it is.
See you later, man. You know what? Give John Schneider at least a little bit of credit, although it is disappointing to only get a 7th-round pick in return.
Yeah.
Let's view it through the lens of Monte Ball, who was released by the Broncos with no compensation the following day, who was picked 4 spots ahead of Christian Michael.
Right.
And they couldn't get even a 7th-rounder. Mm-hmm. So to even get a 7th-rounder, that's at least something. And honestly, don't let the door hit you, man. Like, everybody on this team was over it. Couldn't carry the ball in the correct hand, couldn't hold on to the ball, couldn't pick up in pass protection, was just running the wrong direction on half of the running plays. Good luck in Dallas. See ya.
There it is.
Hey, at least I'm consistent, though, right? Like, I couldn't remember everything I had to say about that. And why don't I just talk about things that he got better at? Or all the things I just said he couldn't do.
Yeah.
So, he improved. He listened to me. I'd like to think that Christian Michael didn't let the door hit him and then listened to me and got better.
You can just, go ahead and take that away.
Yeah, I'm going to take that credit. But thanks for the email, man. That's hilarious. Now, did we have other voicemails as well?
We did. We got one here from Aaron Wilson, who took our advice, recorded it on his phone, and emailed it into GoHawks@SeahawkersPodcast.com.
And it sounds good, right?
It sounds really good.
Hey, guys. This is Aaron from Brandon, Manitoba. I fell for it. I fell for a clickbait story on Bleacher Report. It's the one about why they're not a top 10 team. And I just have to say, Chris Sims is one of the worst sports analysts I have ever seen. And I've known this for quite a while, but yet I fell for it again. I mean, that dude must have gone to the Pete Prisco School of Sports Analysts. He's terrible. Why are we listening to this guy, this failed NFL quarterback, who threw more interceptions than he did touchdowns in his entire career? Why are we listening to this guy and the 2 buffoons he has with him talk about football when they obviously don't watch it? I mean, all they do are these supposed hot takes on Seahawks football that just amount to just the latest buzzwords. Oh, offensive line is bad. Oh, who's the other corner that's playing opposite of Richard Sherman? They must be weak. It's just like, come on, guys, do better than that. What got me the most, though, was how they compared the Seahawks offense to arithmetic and compared the Saints offense to advanced geometry. Can we please get off of this Saints hype train? They are not good. Drew Brees is, he's been a great quarterback, but every time that we played him, we've just completely dominated him. So just get off of this Saints being so great train. Just stop. Those guys at Bleacher Report, all of them, and I know you've talked about them before, they all need to do better. Anyway, you guys have been great over the offseason. I'm really looking forward to being part of the Pick'em League this year and to just hearing more of the podcast. So keep up the great work and go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, go Hawks, Aaron. That's what's kind of fun about that is Aaron has written into the show many times. And to be able to hear his voice and put a voice to the name, right?
Right.
That's super cool. I enjoyed that. But, hey, man, I feel you're painting that clickbait stuff. It's tough. It's tough to resist. And you know what? I'm gonna share in your misery because I also clicked on this and I watched it. And he's very right about the very shallow analysis of the Seahawks and the fact that whoever was with Sims on their other NFL analyst, not Lefko, his usual partner, but the other dude, he's like, yeah, and then they brought in their off-season acquisitions, and like Chris Clemens, I don't see him doing anything really. Chris Clemens hasn't been on the team for weeks. Yeah. And yeah, I don't see him doing anything either, dude. He's not on the team. Like, they clearly have a very limited understanding of the team and their potential. So, and the other thing is, never trust a guy without a spleen. That's why Sims can't make any good predictions. They took out his spleen after it got splattered in an NFL game, and now he can't think straight. Because the spleen bone is connected directly to your brain bone. That's a true fact.
I don't know if that's true. But,
it is. Look it up in a book, but don't.
See, this is where I give credit to the folks in the Reddit community, because you go to reddit.com/r/Seahawks, and people do this work for you in terms of clickbait, because you'll see clickbait stories posted on there, and the first comments that pop up is, don't even bother. Don't even bother, because this story is terrible. And it saved me from clicks on that one. It saved me from a click on the Seahawks season preview on fansided.com. I can go there and trust folks who, the good thing is people will, they'll take the hit for you on the clickbait.
Right.
So you don't have to.
So fellow 12's taking the bullet for you.
Right.
In that way, you can rid your life of some of this garbage. Maybe I'll have to check out this Reddit thing you keep talking about.
You might have to. Okay, another call from Jason in Miami.
Hey guys, Jason from Miami. 2016 season is here. So excited about it. High expectations. But I just heard Adam's Better at Life regarding Kaepernick, and let me just tell you were right on, man. Perfectly said. Important issue. And I didn't think that it'd be somebody like Colin Kaepernick who would do something like this to kind of bring it to the fore and do it in the way he did. It can be criticized, and people who do criticize it certainly have a right to do that, and there's certainly a reason. But when you look at what he's doing, he's exercising his First Amendment right. And I don't like Colin Kaepernick as a football player, as you guys know. Anyway, looking forward to the season. Adam, you say you're in Florida, but that's not really Florida. You are in Pensacola, FLA, also known as Pensacola,
Catfish!
Lower Alabama. Have fun there. Come down to the real Florida sometime. Take care, guys. Bye.
Yeah, you hear that, Adam? You were in Lower Alabama.
You know what? Word up, Jason, because that's 1,000,000% right, 0% wrong. That is something I came to realize when I was down there, because you'd ask people, like, first off, I never got razzed for being a Seahawks fan once down there, because nobody gives a crap about the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, nobody does. It's all college ball. Now, they're supposedly Floridians, correct?
Right.
So what's your college team? There's only one or two options, Brandon. Is Alabama or Auburn. That's it. I saw just as many Alabama plates down there as I did Florida plates, and how many Florida plates I saw with Alabama school paraphernalia, stickers, everything all over the cars. It is Lower Alabama. He's right. He's absolutely right. But I appreciate the kind words about our take with Kaepernick. There's actually the feedback has been quite amazing. Really, there's been a lot of folks that have chimed in and kind of felt the same, which is cool.
Yeah, a lot of good feedback. Some folks who said, share it on the show or not share it on the show. I don't think we need to get into it a ton. We covered it a lot. And Jeremy Lane, now we saw in this last game, he's getting into it too. So this is becoming a thing, and like it or not, it's not going away.
No, it's not going away. And so here we are. We're going to deal with it.
Let's go on to the next email from Dan in Ka'ava, Hawaii. Aloha, Brandon and Adam. This is the year I'm finally going to do it. I bought tickets for my wife and I to attend the Seahawks versus the San Francisco Dumpster Fire on September 25th at CenturyLink Field. It will be our first NFL game ever, not counting the Pro Bowl, because let's face it, while it's a fun event, it's not a real game. We are going to leave the kids with my folks and fly over for the weekend, and I'm wearing nothing but Seahawks gear the whole time. Do you guys have any recommendations for must-do pre- or post-game activities? I don't want to miss a thing. Also, this year, I want to join at least one of your pick'em leagues, but for some reason, NFL.com keeps telling me that the page no longer exists when I hit the join button. I tried to join both the All-32 and IPA's league and the Seahawker Podcast League, and it happened both times. This could very well be user error, and I'm not so good at this newfangled technology thing. If you have any ideas about what I'm doing wrong or what I could do differently, please let me know. Any help greatly appreciated. Dan, a.k.a. Ka'ava Dan.
Awesome, Dan. Well, we talked about the link problem a little bit earlier. Just log into your NFL.com account first, then go back and click the link. You'll be fine. Congrats on your first game, dude. That's going to be a lot of fun, you and the missus. And, you had me a little worried as you were writing there. You're like, I'm going to the game wearing nothing. I didn't know if it was just going to end right there, but I'm glad you said nothing but Seahawks stuff. I think you'll have a good time. I think, Brandon, what we need to do is record a 10-point things you have to do if it's your first Seahawks game, and just have it up in just a little ditty that we can point people to, because we've answered this question a few times on the pod.
We have.
But a couple quick ones for me. Go down to Pike's Place before the game early and getting some Beecher's mac and cheese, and get the breadstick. You got to do that too. It gets you nice and filled up so you don't have to spend $1 zillion on stadium food. Then hit the brewery, Pike's Place Brewery. Get liquored up. So you're full, you're liquored up. Get to the stadium early because they let you down all the way down to the first row to watch the players warm up and come out of the tunnel and all that. Cool experience. Make sure you go down Utah Avenue for all the tailgating experience there. I don't know what else, Brandon.
If you're going to go down Utah Avenue, make sure to stop by. It's about 1600 Utah Avenue South. That's where the military Seahawkers tailgate. I'll be there for the San Francisco game, if depending on how early you're there, or if you're in Pikes, maybe I won't see you. But yes, Dan, we definitely have to try and link up since you're coming all the way from Hawaii. Yeah, and so Adam mentioned the places in Pikes. Definitely worth. You got to check out Pikes Market while you're in town. I always like to hit a comedy show the night before. If you're going to make it a whole weekend, find it, Saturday night, whether or not it's Comedy Underground or whether or not there's a place in Bellevue that I always like to hit. Parlor Live. They have a Bellevue location and a Seattle location. They always have some nice comedians on Saturday night. And then the other place I like to go for good Cupcake Royale.
Yes, I know you're a big fan of that for sure.
That's true.
So there you go, Dan. Check out those things.
Moving on to Michael Paul in San Diego. Hey guys, love the show. I think you guys did a great job this offseason trying to keep interest with your 15 Seahawks. Everybody should know who didn't play for Pete Carroll. Despite being a fan since 1979, there was some new information that you brought up for each and every player. I definitely enjoyed the segment on the Boz and was appreciative of his comments as well. I also enjoy the Know Your Enemies podcast, as it does offer a good perspective on the other teams in the division. I do have an issue that I am concerned about, though. In all my years as a fan, I've never owned a jersey, mostly because I don't always go anywhere to watch the games and have normally just watched them at home. The 2 times I've gone to watch the Hawks play here in San Diego, I wore a Hawks t-shirt. They're 1-1. On game days at home, I never had a set routine on uniform. However, this year, I decided to surprise my girlfriend with a trip to Seattle since she has never been. Of course, I planned the trip so the Hawks would be at home, and we're going to the Niners game September 25th. Man, it's going to be a party there on the 25th.
Yeah, man.
I haven't been...
Am I going to have to go to the Niners game too now, somehow?
You might have to.
Okay.
I haven't been back to Seattle since 1999, and I haven't been to a Seahawks home game since maybe 1985. Since we just had to fit in, I bought a 12-fan t-shirt for her, and I bought myself a number 3 Wilson jersey. So, I want to start the new game day tradition of sporting the jersey when I'm at home, but I don't want to alter the space-time continuum since I haven't worn a jersey in any time of the past seasons, and recently we've been doing well. So, I ask if it's okay to begin a new game day tradition for the 2016-2017 season and sport the jersey. Looking forward to a great season of games and podcasts. Go Hawks.
That's a very interesting question, actually. And I think that if you had a routine in 2013, something that you did, like I've got the lucky hat, right?
Right.
We've talked about ad nauseum. Now, I'm never going to get rid of the lucky hat now because that hat won us the Super Bowl. So I can't get rid of that. But since he didn't have a game day tradition, then he can start a new one. Now, I think the only other way you can do it is say you had one from before. Whatever that article of clothing was, it has to be legitimately wore out. Like, it has to be something that you have to retire.
Yeah.
And so you retire it. And, maybe give it a burial or some sort of ceremony. Something that signifies that you're letting its spirit go. So then it can then move on into your new lucky article. And I think that's how that works.
Yeah.
Maybe sacrifice a goat. I don't know. You got to do something, though.
No, there's something. Yeah. I think because the way the season ended last year, too, the traditions don't carry over. Because after last season, everybody has likely watched. Because after you have the stench of losing a really close game, you have to wash that lucky article of clothing. Mm-hmm. And many people have done that by now. Right. I hope. Because this is a good point to bring up. Look, if you have that lucky article of clothing that you wore in the Carolina game, and you haven't yet washed it, do it right now.
I'm in a conundrum then, Brandon. So this is my lucky wear conundrum. So the lucky hat is in pretty tattered shape. It's it's been attacked by a dog. It's I've thrown it 1,000 times. So it's just beat up. It is beat up. I don't know that it would survive a washing.
Maybe
So
you
does that
just
mean-
run get one of those sanitizing wipes and wipe it.
Is that good enough, or do I need to retire the hat and let its spirit go and go into something new?
That's a call you're going to have to make.
Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a picture of the lucky hat on the Facebook. You guys can look at that and decide if it's time to move on or if it's time to just give it a sanitizing wipe. I'm going to need your guys' help.
Okay. We'll open it up to the listeners. One more email from a member of the flock. Alicia says, I have to admit, I did not listen to you guys much during the offseason, but with the new season about to start, there is nothing that gets me more in the spirit than listening to the Seahawkers podcast. I could be a little pessimistic about the Seahawks' chances, so you guys definitely help get me into a better mindset each week. So please continue to stay positive. My friends are constantly telling me how good their teams are, but after listening to you guys, I feel like I can come back at them, sounding like I know what I'm talking about. Looking forward to the 2016 season. I'm going to pull all my effort into winning the Pick'em League this year, so everyone should just quit now. From Alicia.
I like that Alicia's coming with the heat here. All right.
One from Matt in New Jersey, another member of the flock. Hey, guys, just wanted to say thanks for getting me through the offseason. I started listening this time last year, and I don't think I've missed a single episode since. But the thought of going on another offseason without my Seahawkers podcast sounds absurd now. You have both ruined my life and given purpose to it. The top 15 Seahawks You Ought to Know episodes were exactly what I needed. I get a lot of hate for being a newer fan, and I can name the Hall of Famers and all, but now I feel like I actually know what I'm talking about, so I can't thank you enough. Question for Adam. One of my secret favorite Hawks is Luke Wilson. Based on previous podcast episodes, I have the sneaking suspicion that Adam hates him.
Confirmed. Yep. You nailed it right on the head, dude. Hate may be a strong word.
Yeah.
Annoys.
Maybe I'm missing something, but that NFC Championship game touchdown catch, and I think he means the 2-point conversion catch, albeit sloppy, was so critical at the time, and ever since, I just like the dude. I need to know if my suspicions are correct, and if so, why. Last thing I have to say is that you guys finally got me. I'm definitely doing this Patreon thing. I've held off so long, but finally realized I needed to do better. Gotta get me that jersey. Thanks again for everything. The quality, the content, and the comedy make my daily commute infinitely less terrible. You guys rock. From Matt.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Matt. Well, yeah, we answered the Luke Wilson question.
We did.
Yeah, for sure. But appreciate you getting in the flock, man. That's great. And hey, look, the idea that we've both ruined your life and given it purpose, my ex-wife feels the exact same way about me. Like, I ruined her life, and her purpose is now to ruin mine. So, like, it's not, you're not the first person to feel this. So, good luck, dude.
And I have to agree. Luke Wilson is never, and he does have a small place in my heart too for that 2-point conversion catch. You know, that rainbow coming up.
I get it.
And yeah.
I know. I didn't say. Now, remember, other Adam, like, you know how it's Wario and Mario, right?
Yeah.
We need to come up with a Bizarro Adam. Maybe we'll just call him Bizarro Adam. Bizarro Adam on the UKC is his dislike for Jermaine Kearse is irrational. Much like mine for Luke Wilson is fairly irrational.
Thanks to everyone for sending in email. If we didn't get to yours, I'm sorry. We had a lot this week. And one thing I do want to put in the show notes is there's an Australian Facebook page now for Australian Seahawkers. So make sure and check that out. I've posted it on the Facebook page as well, facebook.com/Seahawkers podcast. That's starting to grow. So if you're in Australia, listen to the show. Make sure and check that out.
Absolutely. That'll be super great for all of you guys. And again, love the emails, love the voicemails, love the texts, love it all. You can get in touch with us over email at gohawks@seahawkerspodcast.com. You can find either one of us on Twitter at SeahawkersPod. You can also get me at Adam the Rant. I'm on there occasionally. But look us up on Facebook. And yeah, keep it flowing, guys. And to call in, the number is
253-235-9041, or you can record an audio file on your phone. Email it to gohawks@seahawkerspodcast.com.
Awesome. Well, cool, dude. I guess now's the time that we move on to do better and better at life.
Yeah, I'm going to go first with my do better this week. And I couldn't decide which guy to exactly pick. Either Summers, the dude that was playing tight end that got cut, or the Seahawks equipment guy. But I guess I'm just going to have to go with the Seahawks equipment guy because there's already somebody wearing the number 40 on the field. Mm-hmm. And we saw Summers out there wearing number 40, and I was completely confused. I thought that Tyvis Powell had turned around and was somehow playing on offense in that game against the Raiders. Right. And I remember you, Adam, you're like, who is Summers? And I look at 40.
Who's Summers? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, who's Summers? I see number 40. But he was, look, there's only 4 retired numbers. They've made cuts to 75 guys by that time. Why do you have somebody wearing the number 40 when there's already somebody out there with the number 40? And now because
there's 96 other options, right?
Yeah, or 95 because you can only go to 99. You can't wear 0.
Right. Okay.
It's math. It's okay.
Hey, I was close. That's all. I'm proud.
But now because of this, I picture Summers as like some intimidating meathead now. Like the equipment guy says to him, Hey, Summers, welcome to the new team. What number would you like? And Summers is like, give me 40. Oh, sorry, man. Somebody already has 40. I said, give me 40. Dude, Tyvis Powell already has 40. I mean, you could talk to him, but you're probably going to be cut soon anyway. And then like he says, hey, equipment guy, are you deaf? My number is 40. And at this point, I just picture another equipment guy, like assistant, stepping in and whispering, saying, "Hey, it's not worth it. Just give him 40, and we'll work it out later." And because of all this, this is what was going through my head. Seahawks equipment guy, do better.
That's funny. I like how you dreamed up that entire dialogue in your head of how that went down. That's hilarious.
That's exactly
man.
how it went down.
Okay, I believe you. That I don't deny it. So. Is that identity theft? Is that basically what just went down there with the 240s? Maybe. Well, speaking of things that I can't understand are allowed to happen, my do better this week is for the Minnesota Vikings. What in the world are you thinking? Brandon, I know everybody knows by now the Vikings have sent a first and a fourth round pick that's conditional. That could end up being a third or a second. To the Philadelphia Eagles.
It's not going to be a second because they have to win the Super Bowl to get it to be a second.
Good point. Can be up to a third then. So basically, the Minnesota Vikings send 2 picks and a first round pick, nonetheless, to acquire chicken leg Sam Bradford from the Philadelphia Eagles. Brandon, how many first round draft picks and millions of dollars are going to be spent on Sam Bradford? When is it going to stop? This is like, have you ever heard of throwing good money after bad? This is exactly what this is. Throw good money and good picks after bad. How many years does he have to be mediocre or injured for us to realize not worth it? Just not worth it. But yet somehow the Vikings in desperation go ahead and make this move. Where do they think they're going this year? Are they a good team? Yeah, they're a good young team. They weren't winning the chip this year. It's not going to happen. I just roll with Sean. He'll get a better draft pick for that first round pick by just, rolling through the year. Doing your best, knowing that any year that your franchise quarterback goes out before the season starts, it's a lost year. It's just what it is. Cut your losses. But no, they mortgage more of the future and more money and more cap space on mediocre, crappy Sam Bradford. I don't understand it. I don't understand how GMs overvalue this guy. I don't know if Howie Roseman, the GM for the Eagles, played a Jedi mind trick on Rick Spielman. For the GM for the Vikings, I don't know how this works, but for the Minnesota Vikings, you screwed up. Do better.
Sam Bradford just strikes me now as the gold standard of draft capital, right? Like you have the Sam Bradford gold bar that you can just kind of stash away. And that, whether it's a year from now, 6 months from now, you can break out that gold bar and it's still going to be worth something. And I don't know why it
collapses. Yeah, if the economy collapses, you have an overvalued Sam Bradford that you can just pull out of your pocket that everybody seems to think is worth something.
Right.
Even though it's just gold. It's just an object.
It's just a piece of metal in bar form.
Oh my Lord, dude. I don't I know he's a Boomer Sooner. I get it and all that. And now they've got a Boomer Sooner backfield with AP and Bradford. But, dude, does this make any sense to you if you're the Vikings? Like, does this make any sense to you?
I think that the Vikings threw a first round and a fourth round pick at their backup quarterback.
Sure. You think Sean Hill's still going to be the starter then?
I think Sean Hill's going to be the starter.
Well, it is week 1 because it's going to take Bradford a while to get the playbook and all that. But
on the other hand, though, I could see how the Vikings, they have a pretty decent offensive line. And that's something Sam Bradford hasn't had in his career. And they have a good running game. That's something that, while they did have that a little bit, to a certain extent in St. Louis, it didn't, it never really materialized last year. Maybe because Chip Kelly didn't know how to run correctly. And maybe it was the offensive line. But this could be the year. This could be Sam Bradford's one good year. And maybe that's what the Vikings are rolling the dice on.
Dude, he's had 0 good years. He'll never have good years because he's not good. That's the main problem with him having a good year. You have to be good to have a good year. And it's just not going to happen, man. They overpaid big time. This was a huge error on their part. And Howie Roseman, I dang near made him my better at life for him to pull this off. He gets back a first round pick after they gave theirs up last year with a bunch of other picks to move up for Carson Wentz, right? So now they got their quarterback of the future in Wentz, and they get that first round pick back. This was a coup.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, the Eagles have a chance to win a division that's, if they get to 8-8 or 9-7, that could win the division. And maybe they think Carson Wentz is the guy that can do that now.
Well, that's the Eagles' mistake, though, because they should be going with Chase Daniel for at least a few weeks because Carson Wentz had his up and down moments in the preseason, then got hurt and didn't play a lot. Man, why feed him why give him David Carr disease right out of the gate? I don't get it.
No.
Let Chase Daniel go out there and do his thing.
Yeah, you paid him backup money, solid backup money. Send him out there.
Yeah, or if you're the Vikings, why didn't you just trade like a fifth for Chase Daniel? He's at least as good as Sam Bradford.
Because the Eagles know he's the better quarterback. They know Chase Daniel's the better quarterback.
But they're not going to play him. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Who knows? Who knows with the Eagles? Let's get into Better at Life.
All right, man. Who you got?
My Better at Life this week is for one of the newest members of the 12th man flag raisers, Misha Tate. She raised the flag at the Cowboys game. It was cool to see her out there. And really cool story. This one was sent in from one of our listeners, too. Great story of Misha Tate carrying down an injured 6-year-old hiker and saved the family a lot of time. I'll read some of the posts from... This was from an Instagram post from, I believe, the father of the 6-year-old little girl that broke her arm. That says that she broke her arm up at the top in Mary Jane Falls, hike at Mount Charlton, and said that they had to carry her down miles to the trailhead. And who came along but Misha Tate, and offered to help carry their daughter down the mountain, and says that, you saved us, saying to Misha Tate, you saved us easily hours of hiking and helped get her to the hospital sooner. Thank you again. It's in a post here from Misha Tate on Facebook, essentially saying the same story. The mother asked the 6-year-old daughter, would you rather have me carry you down or rather her carry you down? And without hesitation, to her surprise, she quickly replied, I want her to carry me. And she had a pretty good laugh. So apparently, clearly Misha Tate, more athletic than just about any other woman on the planet.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Probably better equipped to carry a 6-year-old.
Than either of us. Yes.
Yeah. All the way back to the car. And so she made the point in an Instagram post, Misha Tate did. She said, I also want to make the point that I have been told many times that I am, quote, too buff or, quote, manly, that I should stop lifting weights, that it's, quote, gross and not attractive for a woman. I'm so happy I never listened to the limitations others wanted to put on me, and I hope that our youth knows that they don't have to conform, and that strength and beauty come from within. And just a cool message from Misha. And clearly, her strength helped her out in that moment, helped get a young 6-year-old to the hospital a little bit sooner. And for that, Misha Tate, better at life than Skip Bayless.
Yeah, I mean, that's very cool, kind of doing what anybody that has the ability would do. But, I mean, you don't hear that story often, and good for her. And I'm also glad that she didn't listen to all those people to tell her to stop doing what she's been doing, because she's hot. Like she can do it. Just keep on it. You're getting it done, Misha.
And one of the more entertaining fighters to watch too. He's
totally talented, great
Indeed.
lady, and a gigantic 12. So
yes,
can't fault her there. That's, man, she's a perfect 12. That's what she is.
There you go.
Yeah. If I could get Misha Tate to marry me, I'd probably be doing all right.
Well, I think she's already taken, but
Well, all right. Well, minor detail. All right, moving on to my better at life than Skip Bayless this week is somebody who really has a bone to pick with none other than Skip Bayless. And this is a guy that I often don't agree with, and just, maybe not often don't agree with. I've never been a huge fan because he's an all-time Dallas Cowboy, and he ripped my heart out a couple times in some Super Bowls back when I was a young man.
I think a few times. I think few is when it's that many.
Yes, okay. True fact.
Just got to correct your grammar.
It's none other than Dallas Cowboys quarterback and now Fox color commentator Troy Aikman. And basically his reaction to Fox hiring Skip Bayless to come and do a show with donkey face Shannon Sharp, man. Like, I can't stand that guy. He's so ugly and he's so dumb and he's so brash. Makes a perfect pairing for Skip Bayless. But apparently I'm not the only one in all of us 12s who do not like Skip Bayless. This is what Troy Aikman had to say when interviewed by Richard Deitch of Sports Illustrated about them hiring Skip Bayless. He says, quote, "To say I'm disappointed in the hiring of Skip Bayless would be an enormous understatement. Clearly, Fox Sports president Jamie Horowitz and I have a difference of opinion when it comes to building a successful organization. I believe success is achieved by acquiring and developing talented, respectful, and credible individuals, none of which applies to Skip Bayless." Ouch, man. He's bringing fire. Now, the thing is Troy Aikman has a legitimate reason to not really like Skip Bayless. Basically, back in 1996, Skip Bayless wrote a book called Hellbent, and where he made accused is the wrong word because it's not like it's a bad thing, but made the assertion that Troy Aikman was gay.
Oh,
I don't even know where that comes from. And so they asked Aikman about that back in 2015, and he said, quote, "I am upset about it because it was made up, and there was nothing accurate about anything that was insinuated, and he did it, as he does for everything, just for attention." Troy Aikman has a real good bead on Skip Bayless, and I like that he's bringing it all to light, and I like that even though he is employed by Fox, he's willing to stand on the table and be like, this guy's scum, and I hate him. I love it, and for that, Troy Aikman, better at life than Skip Bayless.
Indeed.
Well, cool, man. That was a full show.
It was.
Huge. Congratulations, everybody. You made it with us through the offseason. It's here.
The regular season is here.
Yeah.
Finally. We're going to be talking about a game next week. A game.
So
real
awesome.
life action.
I can't wait to break down a game and break down tape and talk about things that really matter, that actually happen, and actual play calls. You know, my last plea before we get off the air, Brandon, this is my last plea. And I hope Daryl Bevel's still listening because I know he listens to every show.
How did I know you were going this way?
No bubble screens. Just no bubble screens this game. Could we just not? That'd be great.
Somebody started a bubble screen counter on Twitter.
And a bubble screen support group, dude. Like, we all are scarred by this.
Be sure and hashtag bubble screen. We'll be looking for those.
Sounds good, man. All right, I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Thanks for tuning in to our show. The Seahawkers podcast is hosted on Libsyn.com. If you're thinking about starting your own podcast, visit Libsyn.com, Libsyn.com, and use promo code SHP to get free podcast hosting for the rest of this month and all of next month. That's promo code SHP. Visit Libsyn.com, use your promo code. Go Hawks.